Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Radhanath Radha Radhanath Radhe. Jaya Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Please repeat or follow after me. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Taranti Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vidamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhurbevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gatadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and thank you for attending today's morning class. A bit of a chilly morning, and yet we are here. So we will be continuing with our Transcendental Diaries by Hari Sauri Prabhu, who diarized the activities of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. And we've been doing this Transcendental Diaries for quite some time now, and today we'll be speaking where Srila Prabhupada is in Los Angeles, and the date is 7th of June, 1976. So, of course, after reading the diaries for a while, many times we'll find that Srila Prabhupada's day, was generally made up of his conversations with the disciples in the morning, during the morning walks and so on. During the day, he'll be giving a class, so he'll be in some interview or something like that. And then by the afternoon, he's replying to letters and, settling down for the night, sometimes doing translations and so on. And, sometimes you wonder, how or why do we need to hear from a transcendental diary? It's a diary entry, something that we just recorded. Prabhupada is doing this and Prabhupada is doing that. Why do we need to learn this? There's Bhagavatam to speak about. There's Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Why do we need to take our time to hear from the Transcendental Diaries? Of course, we know that Srila Prabhupada's books, they are very, very important. We are meant to give these out to the people of the world so that they understand and learn Krishna consciousness. But although it is good for their growth, sometimes we also need to have a little bit more personal interaction with spiritual master, with the acharyas, because it helps us develop ourselves even more so that we can give more out there. And you'll also find that in these conversations that Srila Prabhupada has with his disciples, even with the interviews, the questions that are raised, we may not find some of these in the books. And so we have to hear from the Transcendental Diaries, and this here can even help us understand and appreciate the way Srila Prabhupada went about Krishna consciousness. It's just that we give out books and that's it. No, we have to have these personal interactions with people, and we don't have book conversations with them. We have, a very general conversation. We need to know how to handle this in a proper manner. So hearing from Transcendental Diaries also helps us to develop our preaching as well. So today's diary entry is just on this day, which is the 7th of June. The entry will focus on his conversations with his disciples in the morning, followed by an interview about the rascals and the moon landing, and then some of his responses to his letters from his disciples. So the first part here is going to talk about the Sahajiyas and who are the Sahajiyas. So I'll just read from the diary. Going out in the car for his morning walk, Prabhupada gave further warnings to Tamal Krishna and Rameshwara Maharajas on the dangers of the Sahajiya tendency spreading in ISKCON. Tamal Krishna is returning to New York a little early because he is concerned that it might be spreading there also. Pradyumna Prabhu's ongoing investigation has discovered that the Gopi Bhav group have been transmitting their ideas to other temple communities by some sort of unofficial newsletter. Tamal Krishna told Prabhupada that one of the symptoms he has noticed about these people is that they don't go out in Sankirtan. As soon as he said that, Prabhupada cut in. Then everything will be finished. Preaching will be finished. In this Sahajiya party, then preaching will be finished, declaring the Siddha Pranali process as nonsense. Prabhupada told us where the whole thing was coming from. They had learned it from these Radha Kund Babajis. From Radha Kund Babajis, Tamal Krishna asked. Babajis, yes, Prabhupada reasserted. After all, they're fools, rascals, so whatever they say. So Prabhupada, he speaks about the Sahajiyas in many, many places, many books. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a purport that explains it very nicely here. It says, it's a class of so-called devotees known as Sahajiyas try to imitate the Lord's pastimes, although they have no understanding of the amorous love in his expansions of pleasure potency. Their superficial imitation can create havoc on the path of the advancement of one's spiritual relationship with the Lord. Material sexual indulgence can never be equated with spiritual love, which is an unadulterated goodness. So the Sahajiyas, as devotees, we must try to avoid them, because what are the Sahajiyas? They are only interested in, you could say, the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. They only want to imitate the Lord's pastimes, and particularly only those pastimes that you'll find in Canto 10. They tend to skip all other philosophy presented. Bhagavad Gita, push it aside, they don't want to see it. Cantos 1 to 9, push it aside, they don't want to see it. They're only interested in the 10th canto of the pastimes of the Lord, the intimate pastimes of the Lord, particularly focusing on the one where there's loving exchanges between the gopis and Krishna. And so these Babajis, they have this interest with the amorous affairs of the gopis, and the only reason that they are interested in it is not for any spiritual benefit, but they want to use that as the the backing of their material sexual indulgence. So they say, oh well, Krishna was like this, Krishna used to engage with the gopis like this. In order to associate more with Krishna, we should become Krishna and then engage more with the gopis in the way that we should engage with women. So they take this whole spiritual understanding, they misunderstand it, they concoct it, they pervert it, and they use it in the name of God. So these Sahajiyas, when you start hearing someone tell you, oh, you don't worry about Bhagavad Gita, you don't worry about Canto 1 and Canto 2 and so on, you just worry about Canto 10, just walk away. Because the way that they speak, they may try to convince you that you don't need to do anything else, just focus on Canto 10 and you will achieve the perfection. This is very, very dangerous. Now the problems that may arise in doing so, in just focusing on Canto 10 like the Sahajiyas, is that it can become a hindrance on the path of devotional service. It's the last thing a devotee wants, is to be strayed off the path or be blocked and he cannot go any further. Also, the enjoyment without understanding and restriction. Remember, the Sahajiyas, if they're going to engage in such activities, then they are not following regulative principles as prescribed by the Vedas. And this is the problem, is when you don't read any of the other scriptures presented, you just want to focus on something in particular, you lose the essence, you lose the austerity, the truthfulness, you lose all of these pillars. And so you just engage in what you think is spiritual life, but actually it is not. And then, of course, of such engagements, there can be unwanted progeny. So where does the misunderstanding come from? Again, the lack of knowledge. If you're just going to skip to Canto 10, you're not going to really understand the essence of Canto 10, because these are very, very intimate pastimes. If you're watching a TV series, and there's 10 episodes in that TV series, you're not going to go to episode 10 and watch the climax of it. You're just going to watch it and like, well, I don't really know what's going on. I don't understand. But this is supposed to be the epic moment. Of course, any person who's going to watch that is going to watch episode 1, episode 2, and so on and so on. And then you get to the final episode like, okay, now I really understand. Now I appreciate what's going on here. Now it's exciting. So when you read just Canto 10, you're not going to appreciate these intimate pastimes of the Lord. These are very rare. These are very, very rare. This is not supposed to be given out there, but it is there. And the people are now taking and concocting it. The other problem that comes about is that such people, the Sahajiyas, they want to be like God. Because God did this and God did that, so they think, I can do this and I can do that. Again, that is one of the last things a devotee wants to do, is to be thinking that I can be like God. I want to be God. That is the whole reason why we are in this material world, because we think we can be God. Unfortunately, for all of us, that is not going to be possible. What are we trying to achieve? We don't want to be God, but be the servants of God. So you listen to the instructions of the Vedas, the instructions of the Acharyas. If they say you start at Canto 1, you start at Canto 1. You don't go to Canto 10 and say, don't worry about this. And of course, there's no genuine parampara or guru. There's nobody to correct their mistakes. The Sahajiyas, these Babajis, they think that they are the topmost, and whatever anyone else says, it doesn't matter because they know the best. But this is not true. There's no parampara in their system. And whatever parampara there might be there is teaching the wrong things. And so such things carry on. There's no correction, there's no guidance. Then the next part of the Transcendental Diaries is the gradual spiritual development. This continues the conversation with Rameshwara Prabhu and Tamal Prabhu. Rameshwara repeated one of the statements from their newsletter regarding service in a reverential mood. So they have found some quote that reverential devotional service is an impediment towards developing pure love. Tamal added another. They quote that regulative principles are a hindrance on the path. There's a statement somewhere in one of your books that when one attains the highest platform, then where is that highest platform? Prabhupada acknowledged. One must go through stages, Rameshwara said. You gave the examples of trying to get an MA degree. Yes, Prabhupada agreed. One has to come to that highest stage. It is not forbidden. That may be ideal, but for the neophytes, one who does not know A, B, C, D, what will he know about MA degrees? That they do not know. They think they have already passed MA degree. That is their fault. So here we can see that the material conditioning, is so strong because of our weaknesses, and particularly in this one where its austerity is lacking. Everybody wants quick results. Nowadays, when you go onto social media and you speak to people, you'll find this common theme: the 5 secrets to success, the 10 best steps to spiritual life. And so these are all the shortcuts to spiritual life. Unfortunately, in spiritual life, there are no shortcuts. There is a shortcut, but even that shortcut is not a shortcut. It's not done within 5 minutes, 10 minutes. There's no 5 best things, 20 top ideas. There's no such thing. So what the Sahajiyas again are trying to do is that they are trying to bypass all the other scriptures, right, and just go to what they consider the essence, which it is the essence, but they do not understand it in that way. And so we as devotees need to understand that our spiritual life is a marathon. We are not going to come to the temple one day and become fully realized. It's a gradual process. We have to do Srila Prabhupada's, come for classes firstly. Read Srila Prabhupada's small books. When you get some knowledge, read Bhagavad Gita under a guided person, bona fide spiritual master or bona fide teacher. Then you move on to Bhagavatam, and even then within the Bhagavatam, then you get to 10 Canto. So this is the Krishna conscious process. It's a process, and we can see it in our teachings, the 9 stages of devotional service. Shraddha, Sadhu, Sangha, and so on. Bhajana, Kriya. So in this way, we don't just jump to bhava. Bhava is one of the highest stages. You don't just jump from some sort of initial faith and now next day you're bhava. There's no such thing. Bhava, the symptoms experienced by a devotee in the state of bhava, they say that tears come out, they start dancing crazily, they faint and so on. What Prabhupada said, he says, if you see anyone fainting in our temple room, what must you do? Anyone knows? I don't really want to say it. Yeah? You kick him in the head. Right? Kick him in the head. Right? Not because we're violent people, but if you're really in this mood of ecstasy, you're not going to feel that pain. But if someone's going to feel that pain, then you're not in ecstasy. Right? But of course, we do not recommend kicking anyone in our temple room. Please do not do that. But what Prabhupada's trying to make is that bhava is a very high state. It's very rare. Hardly anyone's going to get to bhava. Although that by gradual process and practice, we will get there eventually. So we can see this now, 9 stages of devotional service. Even the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar of devotion, it also, alongside the 9 stages of devotional service, there's also the process of going through sadhana bhakti first and then getting to bhava bhakti. And even within sadhana bhakti, there's this aspect of Vaidhi bhakti where you just got to follow the regulative principles. You got to follow the instructions. And from there, you move up and up and up. So all these things are there in the Vedas. But of course, this class of people do not read all of this. They do not know any of this. They just want to go straight to Canto 10 and pretend that I am now fully realized. And then continuing the conversation, mostly Prabhupada said, agreeing, they have no knowledge, material, Prakrita Sahajya. Their real name is Prakrita. Their thoughts are on this material platform, just as they are preferring this conjugal love, because here the sex is prominent. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Prabhupada ki. Just as they are preferring this conjugal love because here the sex is prominent, they are thinking that this is the highest stage. What is the lowest stage here? They're taking that as the highest stage. Of course, in the spiritual world, there is such a thing. But as Krishna has many other leelas, why they are not attracted to other leelas? They don't want to be limited, Rameshwara said. They think that Krishna is the Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So why? That is good. That is always true. But Krishna says, Manushayam sahasresu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatpata. How you have understood Krishna? Krishna says, out of many millions of people, one becomes siddha. And out of many millions of siddhas, hardly one can understand me. So how you have understood Krishna so easily? Within 2 years? What you have understood Krishna, that is materially understood. You do not know what is Krishna. That is Prakrita Sahajya. Oh, we have understood Krishna was a playboy dancing with his girls. Bas, we have understood. So, again, Prabhupada is trying to allude to the point that, within 2 years, someone can know Krishna. Within 5 years, some of the degrees of study in the material world are not even that short. If you're doing a psychology degree, it's about 6 years to be qualified. Doctors take 10 years. Some go into specialization, 12 years. But for Krishna consciousness, the highest class of knowledge will take you 2 years. Can't be. That must be some cheap thing then. Many, many millions of lifetimes we have passed. We're not just talking 6 years, we are talking millions of lifetimes, and we still don't know Krishna. This is the highest knowledge. This will take some time to go, and only a spiritual master can guide us. We cannot do it by ourselves. It is cheating. You are cheating yourself by thinking that I will just skip the top 10 ways in Canto 10 will teach me how to become fully realized. No way. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, Krishna opens up speaking about the banyan tree and how if one looks at a banyan tree reflected in the water, although the tree naturally, the roots are at the ground and then the trunk and then the leaves, but when it is reflected in the water, you find that in the reflection, the roots are now at the top and then the trunk and then the leaves and so on. And you go on to explain that, the Vedic hymns are the leaves and so on and how everything branches. Right, the different paths that one may take in this life. So, just as this is understood in chapter 15, yes, there are loving exchanges in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, yes, the leaves are at the top. That's the highest perfection. Right? That's the highest perfection of realization. But such activities that are performed in spiritual world, in its reflection, is now the lowest. Because the spirituality is lost, and now those activities now become the lowest. So sex enjoyment is actually the lowest, right, of activities that one can do in the material world. And what these Sahajas are doing is that they're saying, okay, we'll take this and we'll do it in the material world. And now they perform the lowest act. So again, we have to be guided by spiritual master. So you cannot gain spiritual knowledge and experiences by a cheap process. Everything that is material is cheap, and it can be gained by a cheap process. But Krishna consciousness, Krishna is not cheap. Krishna consciousness is not cheap. His process is not cheap, even though all the literature is available to the whole world. Who is reading it? Who is understanding it? You know, the pastimes of the Lord are so secret, yet the Prabhupada has come and given us the secrets in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And these books are freely available. Anybody can go and purchase the books. But it is not as cheap as paying maybe about 2,000 for the set or 3,000 for the set of Bhagavatam. You may open the book and you may read it, and you may not have any idea what's going on. This is Krishna's potency. He can, even though you have the words in front of you, you must understand what you are reading. That is only can come through the mercy of the spiritual master. So although these things are out there, and one can say, I have Bhagavatam at home, I have Bhagavad Gita, you still need to read it. And even after reading it, you may still not understand. You have to come and hear it from a bona fide person. In the Bhakta Rasamrita Sindhu, it is stated, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved graham indriyayi sevan mukhehi jivata swayam eva spurateada. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for the transcendental loving service unto him. 1-2-234. Now, the results of the Sahaja, still continuing that conversation. Prabhupada gave the counterpoints. You say that in the Shastras does not say. Shastra says that after you have studied all the 9 cantos of Bhagavatam, then enter into the 10th. Sahaja means that they take very easily, everything is all right, now I am perfect. Krishna says, to understand me it will take millions of years, and they understand Krishna immediately. That is called Prakrita Sahaja. Krishna's incarnation is to attract the living entities to Krishna. So let me read about Ras Leela, because I'm feeling some attraction, Rameshwara said. Then why not Kurukshetra Leela, Prabhupada said. Krishna's Leela is the same, absolute. You are attracted to Ras Leela means you have got sex desire. That's all. And actually, what you said, that one girl, he said she killed her baby, Rameshwara answered. This is their business. This Ras Leela is for the person who is completely purified. When one is impure, he should not think of. That is stated in Bhagavatam. In this, they have misunderstood your Krishna book, Rameshwara told him. They must have misunderstood, Prabhupada said. They are all rascals. So what has happened here is, I'm just taking chunks out of the Transcendental Diaries, is that what has happened is that one of the devotees became associated with the Sahajias and started to preach different things and so on, and one of them actually became pregnant. And then they had to abort the baby. Now all of this is what happens. Unwanted progeny, abortion, killing and so on. This is what happens when you are not under proper guidance. Right? All these nonsense things begin to happen. Our job as devotees is to study the scriptures through a bona fide spiritual master. This cannot be any more emphasized. You have to go through somebody bona fide. Otherwise follow the sequence of the scriptures. So even if for some odd reason there are no devotees inside, but you find a book, at least read that book from page 1, then go to page 2, that kind of thing. You do not want to just take, I will just go to this chapter here and I'll go to that chapter there, that canto there. It doesn't really work out. So the foolish persons think they have unlocked the secret to knowing Krishna. Right? The Sahajiyas think they are great, but more problems actually come about, and now we see as well unwanted progeny and abortion. So this is the results of the Sahajiyas, right? These sort of things happen. Spiritual life, the whole point is, we'll become spiritual. That's not going to happen. There's no such thing. They are just wasting time. They are cheating everybody. So moving on from that conversation, the Prabhupada goes into an interview, and I will just focus on 2 aspects of the interview, right? So the fools and rascals. So it says here, the reporter then asked him, I wonder if you might have any opinions on some of the leaders of cults and groups in the United States, such as the Divine Light Mission or the TM and so forth. I'm wondering if you have any opinions on Guru Maharajji or Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Prabhupada didn't want to directly say they are fools and rascals, but by sticking to Krishna's own statements, he made their position very clear. There are different groups, I know that, but I do not go in detail to understand them. But we have got a crucial test, that anyone who does not know about Krishna, he is put into 4 different types of categories as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. One category is that he is sinful, another category is that he is rascal, another category is that he is lowest of the mankind, another category is that his so-called knowledge is taken away by illusory energy. So this is our test, that is stated in Bhagavad Gita, that namam dushkritino mudaha prabadyate naradama mayaya aprita jnana ashuram bhavam ashrita. Anyone who is not talking about God, he is either of these groups: sinful, rascal, lowest of mankind, and knowledge taken away by illusion. This is our conclusion, and that's a fact. Because a person who does not know about God, what is he? He is animal. The animal has no knowledge about God, but a human being, if he poses himself to be very learned, then he must have knowledge about God. Otherwise, what is his knowledge? So here Prabhupada is quoted from Bhagavad Gita, the 4 types of impious people. You can find this in chapter 7, where he talks about the 4 types of impious: the fools, the rascals, the lowest of mankind, and knowledge robbed by the illusory energy, as he has stated here. So the 4 types here are the mudas. The mudas, they are those persons who work for some benefit, for some income or whatever, and then they enjoy the fruits of their labor, right? And knowledge of the Lord, not really interested. All they do is work very hard for a little small salary or small income or something. Whatever small income, they still take that and they spend it on all this nonsense material world. And they go back the next day and work for 8 hours, 10 hours, small income, and then go spend it on something. So they are just wasting their time, wasting their energy, and as Prabhupada said, they are now compared to animal. Because the animal also has to do something, come and sleep and go back the next day. The next type is Naradamas, the lowest of mankind. So these type of people don't follow any principles. They just go about their day doing whatever they need to do, come back, no austerities, no interest in trying to understand the Lord, no interest in developing Krishna consciousness or any spiritual aspects for that matter. The Mayaya Aprita Gyanas, these are the erudite people, very, very learned, very intelligent people in the way they present their knowledge. But whatever knowledge they present, whatever artistic skills that they have, has nothing to do with spiritual life. They may be great painters. They may write very nice books. They may be writing the 10 secrets to success to who knows. But all this knowledge has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, nothing to do with God, and the intelligence that they are given is you could say it is wasted, because the real use of intelligence is to try to understand God. Otherwise, we are just animals. We are polished animals. And the Ashuram Bhavam Ashrita, these are just simply the atheistic people. They don't want to hear about God. They don't want to learn about God, and they teach other people that there is no such thing as God. And these are the demonic atheistic class of people. So this statement can be found in chapter 7. Right? And all of these type of people, they are compared to animals, because what does the animal do? Eat, sleep, mate, and defend. We also can eat, sleep, mate, and defend. So what makes us different from the animal is that we have the opportunity to understand and learn about God. The animals cannot do that. Sometimes I've seen some animals, though, we can be going on Harinam and there'll be a dog following us. We won't see anyone else coming out of the house and following us. The dog is following us. So even they have some intelligence, and they will get that benefit. So again, most animals, the general state of animals is that they eat, sleep, mate, and defend. We do the same thing, right? But we need to use our intelligence and say, hey, there must be a creator somewhere. Who created all of this? At least start at that point. Where did all of this come from? Why are there people on this world? What is my purpose with them? What is my purpose being here in the first place? Right? Why do I have this body? It gives me pain. It has disease. Can I not change my body? Can I go to somewhere and change? Start at these small things and then build up, right? Start to seek out some knowledge from proper sources. And then you will come to the stage of God realization, right? Through a gradual process. And then in that same interview, now comes the moon landing part. So it says here, then the reporter came to the subject of his previous visit, the moon. When I interviewed you perhaps 5 or 6 years ago, it was before there were reports of the astronauts landing on the moon. And I asked you at that time what you thought about it. And you said that, as I recall, that they would not be able to land or explore because spirits or creatures that lived on the moon would not allow it. The reports, of course, said that indeed people did land and explore and return safely. I understand that you have further thoughts about that. At this point, the devotees all broke out laughing. And you've even written a lot about it. I wonder if you could tell me, not at great length perhaps, but what your belief about those events is. Prabhupada happily obliged. I don't know if the reporter was present this morning for the class, but Prabhupada preached to him on the days of the week theme. Yes, that question I was discussing the other day. In the common sense, gross sense, that all over the world they accept Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. In this way, Saturday last. So why these arrangements? Sunday first and Monday second? And nobody could reply. But as a layman, I can conclude that sun planet is first and moon planet is next. So if you cannot go to the sun planet, which is 93 million miles away, how can you go to the moon planet within 4 days? Nobody could answer. Can you answer? So Prabhupada was very much against the belief that a man had ever landed on the moon. He doesn't accept it because according to the Vedas, it's first the sun planet and then further away is actually the moon planet. Now, so if you go to your common school and you learn in the science class that actually we are taught that the moon is first, the moon is much closer, and then the sun is even further, and then they explain that's how the eclipses form and so on. But actually, according to the Vedic teachings, is that the sun planet is closer and the moon planet is further. So Prabhupada's argument is that according to the Vedas, if this is so, then how is it possible that the man has gone to the moon? How has man gone to the moon if the sun is closer and nobody has ever gone to the sun? How can he go to the moon? Right? So Prabhupada, according to following the Vedas, is very strict on Vedic teachings. You're not listening to anything else. Is that how did they ever go to the moon? And if you do some research on this, is it true that did man really land on the moon? Was it all staged? At that time there was big controversy. It was staged. It was done in a room, and they did some filming and so on. Some of the points that come up is that there were lack of stars in the photos, right? So if you're going to outer space and you land on the moon, there should be trillions of stars behind you. But they're saying that the photos that were printed out and shown to the public is that there were no stars. So where are all the stars? They just disappear. So one of the arguments against this is that the lenses that they had at the time were not able, there's some photo thing there where they can't pick up the light coming from the stars, so that's why there was no stars in the image. Another point they are saying is that the astronauts had placed an American flag there, and they're saying that the flag was waving. How can it be waving? Because there's no air, there's no wind in space. It's just a sort of vacuum. So the argument against that was when they placed the flag, because of that momentum, that movement, so the flag kept on moving and it maintained that for some reason. So that was one of the arguments. The other argument against why the moon landing was fake is that there were radiation concerns. I mean, when you're out there, there's a lot of radiation. So again, the argument against that is that the suits that the astronauts were wearing protected them from that radiation and all sorts of other things. Another point why the moon landing was fake is that there were no blast craters. So when the shuttle is going to land on the moon, it should create some impression there, But if you look underneath, there was no impression. So what happened there? So the argument against that is that apparently they had switched off the shuttle so the impact of the landing did not make too much of an impression on the moon. That was another argument. And then there's also the fifth argument, and there's probably many more. I'm just going to do this last one. The inconsistent shadows. So there were many astronauts standing there, but one shadow is this way, one shadow is that way, one shadow is this way. So what's happening? All shadows should be shining, or should be, on one side. The argument against that is that there's a lot of reflection, all these craters and so on. There are different points where light is reflecting off, and so it's creating the impression that the shadow, although it's supposed to be that way, but it's hitting against something else, so it's, going that way. So that's sort of the argument there. And there are many, many more. This has been going on for many years, but these are just some of the arguments. But, some may say, well, if Prabhupada was here today and he's listening to all of these arguments, he may change his mind. I don't think he would have changed his mind. The Vedas are absolute. The Vedas are not written that at some point in time the sun is first and then the moon. It doesn't mean that now we're in Kali Yuga or something that it's going to switch, because it doesn't work like that. Prabhupada would still stick by his argument. The Vedas say sun is first, the sun is first, and that's it. So even after the man had claimed to land on the moon, Srila Prabhupada was not convinced by this. He only listened to the authority of the Vedas. And we ourselves should not concern ourselves with all these things anyway. Although yes, for argument purposes it will help in our preaching, but we should not go and now go to Google after this class and start Googling all these controversial matters and so on. We're not interested in all that. We are interested in learning about Krishna. We should start at Canto 1 and then read from there. Continuing that argument, Ramakrishna raised a point we had discussed on the morning's walk. He wanted to see what Prabhupada would say in front of the reporter, in order to know how to handle such questions himself. What about that sometimes people ask us, what about the pictures of man on the moon? And Rameshwara added, they show man in a spacesuit walking on some other planet. Prabhupada gave a little smile of skepticism. That is also what is called argumentative. Somebody says it's a laboratory arrangement. The reporter was also skeptical, but of Prabhupada's statement. Laboratory. Prabhupada didn't want to stray from his initial unanswered question. It is a significant point that no material scientist can answer satisfactorily. Of course, we do not go into details of this. My question is that why Sunday first and Monday second? Nobody can reply. The reporter left shortly after, satisfied with his interview, if not a little confused. It is obvious to men like this that Srila Prabhupada is not a crank. He is lucid and highly intelligent and always speaks with authority, based on books of vast knowledge and depth. He is both a scholar and a spiritual visionary. No one can refute what he says, even if they can't understand it. Rameshwara Maharaj, in his usual efficient way, immediately sent the tape recording of the interview for transcribing, promising the reporter he would have it later that day. He is doing this to make sure the article he writes accurately quotes Srila Prabhupada. And then for about 10 minutes, so towards the end of the 7th of June, Srila Prabhupada is now responding to some of the letters given or sent by his disciples all over the world. So one of the 3 letters, one of them is Abhiram's letter, and this is what it says. India continues to occupy his attention in other ways. Letters came from Abhiram Das, Gargamuni Swami, and Saurabha Das. Prabhupada sent lengthy replies to all 3. Abhiram's report on the lake project was not very encouraging, although the Calcutta municipal authorities are enthusiastic for us to spend a large amount of money to develop the piece of public property. There is one objection. They will not allow any structure with deities in it. Abhiram said that after extensive inquiries, there seems to be no way around this. He also responded to Prabhupada's previous request for information on the land in Puri. It is all sand. He said that anything within a mile of the beach is built on sand, and living further inland would not be so good because there would be no breeze and many mosquitoes. Prabhupada replied in a positive fashion, encouraging him to continue on with the lake project. He suggested we present it as a tourist attraction. If a statue is kept in a museum, it does not mean it is sectarian. He told him to say we are prepared to spend any amount of money to beautify the park and will invite tourists from all around the world. It will be an artistic exhibition which will glorify Vedic culture, so why will their corporation not agree? So try for the sanctioning by all means. Somehow or other, by flattery or whatever, get it sanctioned. It is very important. So what was interesting to me in this part was that Srila Prabhupada, instead of saying deity, he uses the word, statue. Now, we don't pray to any statues or idols, right? We pray to the deity. The potency, the energy of the Lord is present within this deity. We respect the deity as good as God. But Prabhupada uses the words, statue, and it makes you think that perhaps for preaching purposes, sometimes, which shouldn't be our first option, but sometimes we need to hide the truth. We need to hide the truth, right? And get them to take the book, get them to install the deity. And I'll give you one example where it reminded me of while I was reading this, reminded me of what I had done in my few years back when I'm still immature in my Krishna consciousness. So we were giving out a biryani at my workplace, Food for Life biryani, and all the I'm a teacher, so all the educators were taking this biryani. Some of them, of course, are not of Hindu background and so on. So one of the educators had, they said that this other teacher, they gave me this and they said, prasad, what is prasad? So now, again, being in my immature state, I felt like I need to explain what prasad is. And I said, no, it's food offered to the Lord and so on. And this person was from another background and they don't do food offered to the idol. But I felt like I need to give the truth as it is. But after saying this to the person felt, no, I'm not going to take this. And then they actually gave me back that container of prasad. So it was my mistake there, and I realized, and even now I'm reading it, that sometimes we need to hide the truth. Because had I not said that, the person would have taken the prasad, ate it, and got the benefit. And so, to this day, I should have not said that. Maybe I should have hid the truth. But I didn't know any better at the time. Hopefully that person down the line will get another opportunity. So sometimes we need to hide the truth. If we're trying to say something, preach something, and the person is being a bit reluctant, maybe we need to give it, just sort of, in a way, bribe them with our intelligence. Then Garga Muni Maharaj, the next letter that he speaks about, Garga Muni Maharaj sent in his first GBC report, which was mainly positive. He had just arrived back in Mayapur after 2 months traveling all over northern India with his buses. He and his men have had good success, selling over 50 standing orders valued at 40,000 rupees and making 35 life members. They held programs in 11 different cities, and in one place a group of 30 Russian families attended. They joined in with the chanting and all took prasad. The only real problem has been the heat, with some of his men getting sick. However, when they went into the mountainous regions, their health improved, so his plan is to visit Kashmir next. As far as Mayapur is concerned, the news was mixed. Garga Muni is very dissatisfied with the pace of the work on the new long building. He ascribes this to inefficient supervision on our part because our men are uneducated and inexperienced in building. He previously had visited Bombay and was very impressed with the new contractor's work methods. Many jobs were being done simultaneously, all were efficiently supervised, and the quality was good. We simply have to check the bills each month. He therefore suggests that we do the same in Mayapur for any future construction. The day he arrived in Mayapur was the same day Bhavananda Maharaj returned from his boat trip to the Sundarban on the Nitai Padakamala. The boat's party sold nearly 3,000 Gita Gunas, and when they went to Calcutta harbour, they were met by the Home Minister, Sri Tarun Kanti Ghosh, and 2 police launches. Mr. Ghosh climbed aboard the boat, offered his respects to Gaur Nitai, embraced Bhavananda, with tears rolling down his eyes, and thanking Bhavananda for starting such a program in West Bengal. Mr. Ghosh met the boat without any prior message given to him. In other words, he has some genuine regard for your divine grace. Guru Maharaj wanted to know if they could use motor launches, since this would make it easy to travel upstream rather than have to rely on the wind. Srila Prabhupada is happy with this report. He agreed that the future construction should be handled by a large and reliable contractor in the same fashion as Bombay. He was pleased to hear about Mr. Ghosh's support, since this means the government will support our preaching program. So we told him it should continue on by whatever means they think is necessary. I simply want to see that preaching goes on, that's all. So here it's nice to see that Prabhupada was happy to hear about people being favorable towards Krishna consciousness. It helps us. It does actually help us in some way or the other. Promotes our preaching program. Those who are against Krishna consciousness and they don't want to hear about us, it becomes a bit more difficult. But still, we must try. Again, if we do the normal route, give it as it is. If they don't want to try that, if they don't want to accept it, then we hide some of the truth and we can give the rest. He had some practical advice for maintaining the health of the traveling party also. In the hot climates, hold programs at night time, and the daytime can be used for resting. Also, green mango sherbet can be prepared. Roast the green mango and take out the pulp. Mix the pulp with a little salt, black pepper, sugar, and make a liquid by adding some water. Then drink it. This will give protection from stroke from the heat. So, Prabhupada's reply is, he really took the time and effort to show his appreciation and care for the devotees, even so much so giving them a recipe in the letter. So, this is how much Prabhupada really cared for his devotees, because the devotees are out there on the battlefield against Maya, and they need to be taken care of. They need to be sent supplies, and the mercy of the spiritual master is sent through this. Even so, the spiritual master will give you tactics and ways of how to protect yourself, of how to carry on the battle of spreading Krishna consciousness. So this is the mercy of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Just got a few minutes left, so I'll just round up here. The last letter is by Burijana Prabhu. Burijana Prabhu also sent a letter from Dallas where he has settled with his wife and daughter. He began by expressing his thanks to Srila Prabhupada for his personal care and attention he has shown them. How can I thank you, Prabhupada, for taking so much trouble just to make me happy? It astounds me that although you have so many disciples and such a large organization, still you care for this insignificant soul who has nothing to give in return. It is the love and compassion of Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that is coming through you, sometimes with the strength of Lord Nrsimhadev. He is now in charge of Dallas, Gurukul, and he gave a brief overview. It is now downsized to about 20 children after the GBC decision to create smaller regional schools. He feels this was a good move as it is more manageable and economically more maintainable. He said the other benefit is that the children get more individual attention, which is important as most of them come from unsteady paths and are bereft of their parents at such a young age. Prabhupada is happy to hear that he has taken his advice seriously and settled into some regular service within ISKCON. Krishna is sending us so many children, and they must be nicely guided and educated so that they can grow up to become first-class Vaishnavas. Go on with your service now and do not be sidetracked and create unnecessary problems. If you simply follow the simple program that I have initiated, you will be happy in this lifetime, and in the end, you will go back home, back to Godhead. So here Prabhupada is also stressing on how important the children are for our future. You can see around us, many of us are aging, right? And it is now time to train the next generation with all our knowledge, our expertise. Train them with the core values of Krishna consciousness. It's not to say now we must merge with the modern society and so on. Yes, there will be some merging, but the core essence, the principles, the advice given by the authorities, that core principle must still be there. But try to refresh the way, give a new fresh perspective on how to take this core values and present it nicely, right, to the new generation. Because sometimes you'll find that the new generation doesn't want to hear what the old generation, we did it this way and we did it that way. Yes, but even Krishna adapts to the times. In the Satya Yuga, he comes as, the method of worship, is meditation, meditate on Om. And then in the Treta Yuga was fire sacrifice. Fire sacrifice. No, not fire sacrifice. Temple. No, I forget now. Fire sacrifice. Fire sacrifice. Then temple worship comes in the next yuga, and then in Kali Yuga, the chanting of the holy name. So even Krishna adapts to the times. It's not just one method throughout all. So again, in this Kali Yuga, it's very fast-paced, and as these new generations are coming on, we need new, fresh ways to present the philosophy. So I'll just end up here with the conclusion, the very last part of this Transcendental Diary entry. Sleeping on the upstairs landing just outside Srila Prabhupada's quarters, I occasionally hear him come out of his room to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. As he passes by, I roll over in my sleeping bag, onto my knees, and offer my obeisances. Prabhupada paused tonight and with concern asked, "So you cannot sleep? You are suffering from insomnia?" And then with mild amusement he added, "I also have the same disease." Still, it was clear he would have preferred me to sleep. So I'll end there, dear devotees. If you have any questions or comments, it's 8:30. If you have any questions or comments, you can raise your hand. We'll send a mic to you.
Hare Krishna. So that person who returned the prasadam also benefited because the person received it. So that's favorable, and returning it may be unfavorable, but the benefit the person already got. So there's no loss in it, so don't be in anxiety. That's one. Just like we go to the campuses and we serve prasadam, but that's mainly for the students. But sometimes the employees of the university come They want 2, 3, and 5, and they'll just take a few and they want to walk off. So at one point I told one man, I said, quite a few of them, just take one, because it's for students. So the next day the person came and he got upset. He said, no, I'm cancelling all my stop orders, everything. I can thank you very much, cancel it. I said, very good, cancel it. Because I know he'll come back. So after like 1-2 weeks, again you're feeling hungry, he came running. So they may reject it in the beginning, at some point. And then, but there's no loss in the process, they benefit, so don't be in anxiety. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I feel a bit better now. Anyone else would like to share something or ask a question? Alright, so we'll close up. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.